this review has been the bane of my existence.
If I told you exactly how many times I have sat down to finish this review only to fail miserably, you would simply not believe me. If you want to know why I quit the first time, it was partially that this very special made me realize that there was something fundamentally wrong with my style. And when I took a break for a couple years and tried again, I came across the same problem. So why don't I just give up? Let the end of time win and simply decide to ignore the movie.
Because the end of time is one of those episodes that just calls forward to be reviewed. It's one of the most divisive episodes ever made. Some people think it's the worst story ever made, and some people think it's the best. What do I think? Would you believe that I'm actually somewhere in the middle? Because I'm not, it sucks.
We start off on the planet of the Ood, where the Doctor had been summoned in the previous episode. Based off of where we had left off before this, you'd expect Ten to be taking this whole thing a bit seriously. But don't worry, he makes sure to break those worries right off the bat. So the Oods have apparently summoned the Doctor to this planet because they have received some sort of odd set of mental images of a man laughing. Yes, it appears that the Master has somehow been sending this image of himself laughing across all of time and space, leading to every human in the year 2009 seeing that face in their dreams, although they all usually forget in the morning. So how the hell has the Master been doing this when he's been dead for 3 years?
He just has been.
Yeah, it's never really explained. People see visions, old people essentially act as oracles, Ood gets some voodoo shit going on, and in the end it's never justified or talked about. It's not like the Master does anything to set up the visions either before the episode or after, it's just shit that you're supposed to accept as a normal thing to happen in the universe, which is teetering pretty close to the edge of my suspension of disbelief. So yeah, the Ood sphere sees all, and they eventually come to the conclusion that the Master must have had a secret plan to survive death as well, which leads to the infamous shot of the red fingernails. As you'll remember, this was a big point of discussion way back when the 2007 Master Trilogy aired. Who was this mysterious character going to turn out to be? The Master's wife? The Ronnie? Jack Harkness in drag? Or some random woman that we have never seen before? That was always my theory, and I was happy to see it fully realized by this special. The Doctor freaks out and runs back to the TARDIS to try and stop whatever the fuck is happening, but he's too late as the ceremony has already started.
I'm your new governor. I'm afraid the previous governor met with something of an accident.
So apparently since the events of the last story, a secret cult of Saxon followers have formed to figure out exactly how to resurrect him from the dead. Their final step is to steal his widow out of prison, as she apparently holds the final key to bringing him back once and for all.
You were Saxon's wife. You bore his imprint. That's all we needed. The final biometrical signature.
Russell, I know that you're going for a Dirk Gently interconnectedness of all things thing here, to suggest that you had a plan for the entire show from day one, and that each tiny reference leads into the next one. But that right there, that is stupid. Very stupid.
So yeah, sugar and spice and everything nice, and pretty soon, shalala-boom, the Master is back.
Never dying. Never dying!
I'm sure you guys remember my thoughts on this Master from when I reviewed his first 3 episodes. And I tried to go into this episode with a fresh palette, just wiping all that away. But it just doesn't work for me.
I had at one point come to the conclusion that this was just me being attached to the lingering past of the show. As people pointed out and will point out, regeneration allows for a shift in personality and looks. There is no reason that every Master needs to have a well-shaped mini-beard or why they all need to wear almost suits for every occasion. So when a new incarnation tapped onto the screen and started challenging all of that, I adored it. Because Missy is amazing and a necessary addition to the program. Seriously, I know that some people hate Missy, but you don't need those people in your life. Missy is currently one of the best parts of the show. But she's also very similar to Sim's incarnation of the Master. So why do I like one humorous take on a previously somber character, but not another? Well, there are a few things, but it's honestly mainly that John Sim doesn't feel like he's into it. I've read in some articles that John Sim never really liked the way that Russell T Davies directed him. Something about not wanting to play a camp egomaniac that just clapped and laughed a lot. And that's just the thing. This master laughs, this master screams, this master rambles. But it never comes across like he's doing these things in effect of the plot or the other characters, or how he personally is wired, but rather just that the script has willed him into doing these things. I think I said in one of my dumb early videos that this master had just a bit too much of the Joker in him, but realistically, there's not like one definitive version of the Joker, and there are takes on the character which I feel like represent what I like about Gomez. Missy blasting away at random people on the street holds the same qualities to me as the Joker poking puns at his latest victims. But Sim once again feels like he is constantly trying to be the Joker without understanding what makes him work. Shake around like you're crazy, Sim. Yeah, laugh real hard. Rub your face just like that. Okay, now act like you have acid reflux. The Master's ex pulls out a quick reveal that she has a magic potion that will undo the first magic potion, and he explodes. Or does he? He doesn't. The Doctor finally arrives to stop whatever is happening, but he's been set off course and is too late. Wilf Noble, the grandfather of Donna Noble and a consistent character from the previous season, gets together a troop of elderly citizens to help look for the Doctor, as he hopes that this will be able to answer the mystery of what their nightmares mean. Once the Master has survived his predicament, he discovers two problems. First off, everyone recognizes him due to his previous run as the Prime Minister of the country, and second off, his resurrection is not complete, and he's constantly losing energy, as he tries to consume everything around him to compensate. I want you to look at this scene and tell me what the tone is supposed to be.
This is mad!
So the music is saying that this should be a big, shocking, serious reveal. That the Master has literally consumed these people as his own meal and is going to do it to these two boys as well. But the fact that they still have their clothes on and are still standing up says that this is supposed to be silly, like something out of a Looney Tunes cartoon. Did the Master just somehow consume all of these people but their ligaments and bones? Did he find a pack of gum somewhere and start meticulously putting them all back together just for this shot? It's silly, moving on. After hours of searching, the Doctor finally nearly has caught up to the Master. And we all know what that means! So the Master gets away and Wilf is finally able to track down the Doctor. And now that the two are reunited, it's time for our allotted sad scene. What do you mean by our allotted sad scene, Quinton? Well, I'm glad you asked. You see, Russell T Davies was always constantly aware that people seemed to like it when he did scenes of characters in his stories being sad. These dem feels moments were something that he tried to put into as many stories as possible. So more often than not, each story would have a point where the entire narrative slowed to a halt so that the characters could be sad. But there often wasn't anything in the story for them to be sad about yet. So instead, the characters would just start talking about sad stuff that had happened in the past of the show. In this story, we get a full revisitation of the Donna Noble storyline and how sad it is.
Oh my word.
The thing about these scenes frequently being fixated on bygone and outdated storylines is that it made it seem like the show was constantly wistful. So often having these big discussions about what the show had been years ago makes it seem like the show peaked a long time ago. Like, you ever see a friend from high school who's clearly a bit too nostalgic about the good times? Under the pretense that, like, the good times stopped when high school ended, he had successfully peaked in junior year of high school. That's what this makes the show seem like. That sometimes around Series 2, the show stopped being comfortable with itself and stopped trying to excel at everything. So instead it has to constantly call back to previous cool things it had done, instead of trying to stick to bridging into the future. There is a reason that the 4th season had record low ratings despite its notoriety for quality, and why the show was nearly taken off the air again after this story. If you insist in shoving in consistent scenes of characters just saying, "You remember Season 2? Season 2 was the good one, wasn't it? Series 2 was sad, wasn't it?" then it makes it seem like this special isn't comfortable with being itself, and that if I want to watch something with good writing, not stuck in the past, I should just go watch the 2nd season. Another big theme that gets discussed here is the Doctor being absolutely baffled with Wilf popping up all over the place.
Oh, we keep on meeting Wilf, over and over again, like something's still connecting us.
Once again, this scene is trying to set up some sort of interesting, bigger picture at play. Like some giant mysterious force is pulling the strings of the show, one by one. But there isn't any payoff. There never is a reveal of a big figure that's forcing the Doctor and Wilf to meet up all the time. So instead, it comes across like the characters in the show are starting to notice that their daily happenings are getting strangely repetitive. Because in the end, there's only one looming figure that we all know is pulling the strings here and making these same characters meet over and over again. Russell T. Davies. Having the Doctor say, "It's weird that something keeps pulling us together," can only be seen as him calling out how repetitive the writing this show is getting. So once we're done with our daily allotted Dem Feels scene, the plot once again can finally move on, as the Doctor is able to finally hunt down the Master and here is another thing that I do not get about the Russell T. Davies era. Why do Time Lords need superpowers? Like, I guess I'm fine with them having, like, little genetic tricks and little ticks. Like, Romana says that all Time Lords can hold their breath for a long time. Whatever, that's fine, doesn't change anything. But when you get down to the Doctor having all these kind of mind mojo Sally Avon tricks and the Master having these big lightning blasts ready to go, it comes across as silly and totally against what Doctor Who has always tried to be about.
Remember my father's land back home? Pastures of red grass, stretching far across the slopes of Mount Perdition.
Just to be clear, it's not that scenes like this are done badly, but rather that they're so out of place. I just watched one of the most overdone, silly scenes in the last 10 years of Doctor Who history, and now we're supposed to all stop within the same minute and have this nice little moment together, reminiscing about the past. Eventually the Master once again brings up his infamous drum beats, which have supposedly gone off in his head since he was a child. I ranted about this little stupid retcon for quite a while back when I reviewed the tail end of Series 3, so I won't go on about this one too long. After learning during their little mind meld that the Doctor too can hear the music, the Master is exasperated with the idea that he isn't crazy. Before the Doctor can try to help calm him down, a SWAT team suddenly flies in, knocking the Doctor out and running off with the Master. So back with Wilf, the Noble family is setting up their Christmas celebrations and are preparing to see a television broadcast featuring President Obama himself. There's a lot of weird lines of dialogue in this episode, where people say that the President is going to announce a universal plan to fix the world's economy.
Couldn't afford much, but not for long. Not if President Obama ends the recession tonight. Coming up.
Here, on Christmas Day, the president has promised an instant and radical solution to the worldwide depression.
Did people actually think this was gonna happen? Did Russell T Davies write this in 2008 thinking that this is what the world was gonna be like a year from then? I mean, if 2016 has taught me anything, it's that British people really don't understand anything about American politics. But really though, you guys thought that the President of the United States, 10 months into his term, was going to just make a sudden transmission that would explain the ultimate way to fix the economy that he and he alone had somehow figured out? During this transmission, Wilf sees a woman in white that apparently only he can see the image of. Who is this woman? Well, at the time there were many theories, from Romana to Susan to the doctor's mother, but in the end, none of these things were right. And none of them were wrong either. Because this is a story that was important enough that no secondary media would ever revisit it, but detached enough from everything else that core content revisitations would also never take place. This is Russell T Davies' final story. So weird shit is basically happening all over the place under the context that no one will ever try to explain it. I mean, of course Moffat would prefer to forget about all that and just do whatever he wanted for his first season. But 7 years later, suddenly bringing all these ideas back would be stupid and extremely confusing to new viewers. So this really is just meaningless guff, confusing for the sake of being confusing. I know I'm harping on this, but this episode really is going against everything that I expect to find. My brain keeps expecting a huge explanation about how this woman can appear to Wilf and Wilf alone, on the street, in the churches, on a spaceship, in a TV, what it means to have her appear later, as well as how she can control all these supernatural elements. Something as simple as, she's the White Guardian, or she's caught between time streams. But in the end, the only explanation that really prevails is, ghosts exist, fuck you! The Doctor lands around the Noble household and starts asking Wilf for help finding the Master.
Alright, Wilf, listen here. Have you seen or heard any fucking obnoxious foreshadowing?
What, mate?
You know exactly what I mean, you little bitch. Any fucking bullshit that's just a little too on the nose and makes it a bit too obvious what the fuck's happening.
Will Donna gave me this book, eh?
Sounds just annoying enough. Let's go, bitch!
So it turns out that the people who have kidnapped the Master are none other than these rich-ass dudes, who have sought the previous Prime Minister out for his knowledge of alien technology. So British Trump basically found this big alien tech thing that can heal things, and he wants to use it to make his spoiled daughter immortal. I realize that there already is a British Donald Trump, but I literally can't think of any other big differences between Trump and this dude. So in the past, I have knocked quite a few times on villains for being Trump clones. But in hindsight, the problem isn't the duplication itself. There have been films that do Trump clones well, but there are also a lot of films that do a complete shit job at it. In Fairly, the Trump clone was too silly, too cartoony, and in this film, the Trump clone is boring. I mean, he's a little too pompous, a little too stuck up, and he doesn't have any real characteristics outside of being big with evil intentions. I hate him, but not for the reasons that I'm supposed to, but because he's a pretty lazy character who technically serves the role as the main villain of this special, and he sucks. A lot. Also, 2 of British Trump's workers are secretly aliens.
By the saints, that's better.
Fun fact, when they filmed all of the scenes with these characters unmorphed, they didn't put face makeup on them, and it wasn't until very far into post-production that they realized that it looked fucking ridiculous, so they had to recolor their skin, frame by frame in post. What a terrible waste of valuable time and resources. Also, I would kick myself later if I didn't call attention to the greatest chicken eating scene in all of Doctor Who's history. Truly, this represents perfectly the complexities within the Master's psyche. Sure, he might be a murderous psychopath bent on controlling the universe, but a man who loves his chicken, in the end, can't be all that bad now, can he? How many takes do you think this took? I mean, I want to see the raw footage for this scene, in its entirety. Did they really make John Sim eat that much chicken? did they bring in stunt actors with like John Sim heads to eat that much chicken once he had too much? How many chickens did they have to go through on the set? You see, some Doctor Who reviewers out there, they analyze character depth, they analyze meaning of certain interactions, but I'm asking the important fucking questions here. How many chickens... How does this... The Doctor and Maud arrive on British Donald Trump's private fortress and are able to sneak inside.
Don't try calling security or I'll tell them you're wearing a shimmer.
I'm sorry, what's a shimmer?
That alien technology is so complex that it actually changes the facial expression of the host using it. Fantastic stuff! The Master finally gets the vague alien tech working, and the Doctor starts freaking out, unable to find out exactly what it's even supposed to do. The Vinvachi explains that the gate is sort of a medical system that heals people in a similar fashion to the nanobite seen a couple seasons earlier.
Why is it so big?
It doesn't just mend one person at a time. It mends whole planets.
Does what?
It transmits the medical template across the entire population.
As the Master is restrained by British Donald Trump, the President's Pez Initiative speech finally begins.
I'd like to speak briefly about the state of our economy.
Run the gate off right now! No. Whatever you do, just don't let him get on the bike. Oh, like that was ever gonna happen.
And so the Master is finally able to force his way into the gate. And here he can finally unleash his master plan. To turn every human on the planet into clones of himself!
Slim Shady, yes, I'm the real Shady. All you other Slim Shadys are just imitating. So won't the real Slim Shady please stand up? Please stand up, please stand up. Cause I'm Slim Shady, yes, I'm the real Shady. All you other Slim Shadys are just imitating. So won't the real Slim Shady please stand up? Please stand up, please stand up.
Yeah, the Master just uses the gate to reshape the DNA of every human on the Earth to be him. And this is where we end the first part of the show. With this silliness. Yeah, 6.9 billion men, women, and children are now the Master. And he's gonna use this power to get some serious shit done. This is seriously so silly. Like, this seems like something the Anthony Ainley Master would have been done. And at least an episode about that would have been charming in its shittiness. But no, this is meant to be serious. The most evil thing that the Master has done as of yet. Yeah, sure. You keep telling yourself that. So starting off the next episode, the Time Lords are considering the disastrous end that the Time War could foresee. I know what you're thinking. Wait, did you put in the wrong episode? I mean, that's not what this episode has been about so far, so you must have put in the wrong episode. No, I put in the right one. Says so right here on the label. But it is at this point where the episode starts introducing new concepts that seem out of place with everything that has been set up so far. You see, this being his final story, Russell T. Davies felt that he needed to try and wrap up as many of his ongoing storylines as possible. This of course meant tackling not only the Master, but also the Time War. According to his autobiography, one of the stepping stones to writing the story was him emailing some of his friends over any ideas for what they would put in a Doctor Who episode. This two-part story is essentially the stitched-together Frankenstein corpse of all those ideas that he collected up, as well as any that he personally had. So it often seems like the story just doesn't fit together right, not only in terms of the concepts piecing together, but also the characters acting strangely. So the Time Lords are considering how to escape the Time War since they have no way to stop the Doctor from using the moment. Moffat was a clever bastard for taking this vague, meaningless dialogue and somehow reshaping it into something with an actual form. One of the Time Lords thinks that it might be time to stop.
Travesty of life. Isn't it better to end it at last?
Thank you for your opinion.
Got him!
See, again with the tone. This is supposed to be a serious moment. It defines his character. But isn't that like an infamously overused cartoon bit?
I love it! What are we talking about?
So yeah, the Time Lords somehow figure out with voodoo magic that the Doctor and the Master are gonna survive the Time War, and decide to send down a White Point Star to Earth in the year 2010 so they can finalize the link and escape. So the Master uses his 6.9 billion sets of clones to study the drumbeat in his head and track it to its source. Hey, so are all of these Masters really just putting in their minimal tasks across the planet without any problems? Like, it just seems really out of character for all of them just to be content where they are. Are the Masters really working on power generators like, yeah, this is fine, the greater good? That's what I like as the Master, my defining character quality. Later on in the story, when everything turns back, people are literally standing exactly where when they turned into the Master. So are those guys really just standing around like, alright, I think you guys got it. Just gonna be here, if you need any help, I'll just be here. Alright. So yeah, the Master threatens to kill Wilf, but one of the guards is actually Vinvucci Ducci, who hasn't turned into a Master. They hope the Doctor escape and teleport him to their ship.
We're in space!
Come on! Right!
Oh!
That's Starbug 1. Good job, designers. You did good on this one. And I hope you got re-hot. Since this is technically a new episode, it's time for our allotted Dem Feel scene once again. And this time, I don't really mind it. No, seriously, I really like this scene. It's brimming at the edge with honest emotion. It's just two men sitting down and having an honest, straightforward conversation during a realistic, quiet moment that doesn't feel like it's breaking anything up. The Doctor even has some meaningful dialogue about he's fallen in the past and how close he's gotten to being much worse than the Master ever was. And after that, a meteor crash lands on Earth, and the Master announced to the Doctor that the White Point Star from Gallifrey, and this means only one thing.
It's the Time Lords. The Time Lords are returning.
How the Doctor reacts to this is one of my least favorite parts of this entire special.
But I've heard you talk about your people like they're wonderful.
That's how I choose to remember them. The Time Lords of old. But then they went to war. An endless war. And it changed them. Right to the core. You've seen my enemies, Wilf. The Time Lords are more dangerous than any of them.
Even if you dislike the day the Doctor brought back Gallifrey and the Time Lords, you have to admit that the dialogue scenes featuring the three Doctors talking about the end of the Time War is very powerful.
Did you ever count?
Count what?
How many children there were on Gallifrey that day?
I've absolutely no idea.
If you're going to put the Time War out as something that defines who the Doctor is in the new series, you cannot try and paint it unrealistically. There is not a lot of ways to defend what the Doctor did. Even if it ended a travesty of horrors, he committed mass genocide. If America bombing Japan just to speed up the end of the war for a couple months is morally dubious, how can you not say the same thing about what the Doctor did? And yet for some reason in this special, we throw all of that away for the definitive statement and answer. All of the Time Lords were evil. Rassilon was evil, Rassilon was corrupt, and Rassilon was powerful. And if you don't follow the might of Rassilon, what happens to you? The few people in the High Council that do vote against Rassilon's initiative are shunned and put on display as they await death. So can we really say that destroying an entire civilization because a few eggs have turned bad is totally, morally, blue and shiny? What if to kill Hitler, the United States decided to atomize the entire planet? Would that be for the greater good?
There are elements in Day and End that line up with how the Time War is depicted, but there's also a lot of stuff that doesn't match up at all. What I'm saying is that the Time War presented in this story, cinematically, is so amazingly uneventful. Look at this shot from Day. You can feel the energy in the scene. You can tell that it's in the middle of a hellish war, and that they aren't too far from death itself. Meanwhile, back in End, they just sit here and talk about how the end is nigh, while nothing is happening. In Day, they're in an actual physical room with a lot of stuff going on in it. In comparison, all the scenes in this special involving the Time Lords are them standing amongst mildly composited CGI, or them literally in front of what looks like a giant black cloth. There is nothing to look at in these scenes. It feels like an old cartoon that never got a proper background. We're just stuck here with nothing in our eyesight but the worst James Bond spitting all over the lens in glorious 1080p. Most of the effects in this special are pretty crap, really. Sure, there's some nice 3D shots here and there, but you can always tell when a green screen is being used, and that's pretty much the high standard for what we have to look forwards to here. Check out this shot, where the production team tries to make you think that this room is collapsing by dropping a random piece of wood in front of the camera. That's how I would do that effect, and I make movies for absolutely no money, and I film in buildings without permission. Self-deprecation aside, I expect more from the BBC than what I could do.
Anyways, the Doctor boots the ship back up and prepares to head down to Earth to finally face the Master again. By the time the Doctor has crashed through the ceiling of the palace, the Master has already brought back the Time Lords. And here we learn that each party has their own clever secret little plan. The Master wants to turn all of the Time Lords into him to make even more Master clones. In response, Rassilon undoes all of the transformations so far. It then turns out that the Time Lords want to destroy themselves to ascend into higher forms.
We will ascend to become creatures of consciousness alone.
What? Like an MST3K?
Hey guys, what's up?
Oh, we're just at the edge of the universe.
Oh, so that's it. No wonder I've suddenly become aware that I can leave my corporeal body and become pure energy, or pure thought, or reason, or pure any number of things. Here, let's see. Wow, cool.
That's not evil, that's stupid. You guys are stupid! So then, another shocking twist, they've brought Gallifrey with them as well. Yep, packed up the entire planet, just shipped that right down to Earth. That's total not silly, not in the slightest bit, not 1 minute. The Doctor then has a strong moral moment. Shoot the Time Lords, or shoot the Master.
I'd just like to point out that this is the guy you're looking for. Shoot him. No, it's him. No. It's him. No. He's the one you want to kill. No, he's the one. He's the one.
I'm gonna have to
kill him.
Just to be safe.
Then the Doctor sees a woman in white cowering next to Rassilon, and he recognizes her fully, leading him to shoot the machine, bringing the Time Lords there, sending them back. Rassilon tries to kill the Doctor at the last moment, but the Master intervenes and gets sucked back into the Time War as well. In the aftermath of this, the Doctor is shocked to find that he is still alive, but not before he discovers that Wilf is still stuck in the radiation protection chamber, which is getting ready to go nuclear and will certainly kill whoever is inside. The only way to save Wilf is for the Doctor to swap places with him, which he feels upset over.
I'm an old man, Doctor. I've had my time.
Well, exactly. Look at you. Not remotely important. But me? I could do so much more! So much more!
I don't know if I've definitively said something is the worst part of the episode yet. I hope I haven't. The number one worst thing about this episode is certainly this part. The Doctor refusing to save someone in this situation and whining about it like it's an annoying chore is so totally against what defines who he is. I've said it a lot, and I'll say it again because it keeps being true. The 10th Doctor was a rotten teenager who had trouble dealing with responsibility after his parents kicked him out. That is how it comes across when you have him being dedicated to mope every episode, and you have to throw in crap like this.
But it's not fair!
And oh my god, is this part overdone. So overdone. I know it seems like that we might be close to the end of part 2, but it's actually near the middle. And that whole middle confrontation scene with the Time Lords was very fast-paced, because they wanted to wrap the story up real quick so they could have a lot more dem feels scenes. In the end, the thing to be sad about is not that the Doctor is regenerating, but that David Tennant isn't going to be in the show anymore. It's very hard to justify how it's written from an in-universe perspective, because it isn't written like someone's about to go through a major change. It's written like David Tennant isn't going to be in the show anymore. Compare the final speeches of 10 and 11, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. 11 talks about how change is sad, but change is important, and while he'll always look back on the time when he was the Doctor with fondness, he has to keep moving. 10?
I don't want to go.
What a shit introduction to the new Doctor. The 11th Doctor had an immediate hard time getting many fans to not hate him, and a lot of the blame can go straight towards this one awful line.
I don't want to go.
Man, dem feels sure are good. Ooh, I'm sure they snuck in that big dem feels moment in there. I'm feeling dem feels right now. Ooh! Almost forgot. Before he dies, he goes and visits all of his former companions. He hooks Jack up with Alonzo for a fab one-night stand. He runs into Martha and Mickey, who are now a couple because whatever. I guess it works because they're both... And he even time travels back to 2005 to see Rose one more time. This scene is so weirdly gummy. But its worst crime is messing up the explicit timeline of Rose's teeth. So before the show, Rose has nice teeth. And then after the show, she also has nice teeth. But she doesn't have nice teeth during the show. So sometime after January 2005, Rose Tyler gets dental surgery to have all of her teeth removed and replaced with really shitty fake horse teeth. And then after she leaves the Doctor, she once again has dental surgery in the other universe to have the nice pair put back in.
New teeth. That's weird. 2005.
Tell you what, I bet you're gonna have a really great year.
Yeah, she isn't though. She's gonna be stuck in a dead-end job for the first couple of months, and by the time she finally finds an interesting guy, it's suddenly gonna be 2006. So then the Doctor goes off with his own dedicated sad song and regenerates alone in his TARDIS. And quickly pops out Matt Smith in one of the most surreal and iconic regeneration sequences of all time. It's surreal because it's Matt Smith, exactly how we're going to know him in the next episode. But the divide between the end of time and the 11th hour is very large. In tone, in direction, in style, in quality, everything changes in the 21 minutes that follow. And really, that's for the best. I honestly view the end of time as a real low point for the show. The end of time is like the show's midlife crisis, which I guess means that we can expect it to finally die in 2055. It's stuffed to the brim with odd callbacks to the past, dem feel scenes, and misunderstandings of what made many things in the show great to begin with. Is it the worst? No. But it's certainly something that isn't fun to sit through. In the 3 years that I've been trying to do this review, I have watched this thing dozens upon dozens of times, and I never plan to sit through it again after I'm done editing this. It is sorely terrible and something that I would very much like to forget. Well, that's almost it. We are almost complete with our anniversary bucket list. So come back next week for a little bit of something special and different. It's not literally going to be a week, okay? So, like, it takes time. It takes time. It takes resources. It takes energy. A week isn't going to be very dependable or believable. There might be some other things in between here and the next thing that aren't the thing I'm talking about. You will know when the thing I'm talking about is the thing that has happened, okay?